Rose touched on so many things about what we were speaking about, and she touched on what the impacts can have on kids when they're seeing things that, aren't necessarily a reflection of who you are, but how the world kind of perceives that we want to be seen as human beings. Something that you work on, Shelle, is you're a kinesiologist, among many things, and you work alongside people with mental health that runs through like ancestral healing and ancestral kind of trauma and things that have happened in the past. I'd love for you to touch on, there's so much that we've spoken about today, and I'm sure that your bing, bing, bing has been going off of how much, kinesiology can help. What are some of the things that you work with people? And when you say ancestral healing, ancestral trauma, for somebody who's never heard of that before, what do you mean? What is that, and what do you do to work with it?
Yes. Well, I generally love to target families and heal generational wounds and turn it into generational wellness. Reason being is we are all inner kids. We have this child that had needs that probably weren't met growing up and in their upbringing, and that had been very similar to what Kim was referring to, just layered on with that paper mache. And so that's so much heaviness. That's so much heaviness that we carry and we mask, and our bodies compensate for it. It comes into our physical image and our mental and emotional, and that affects our relationship. It affects how we show up. And I just see so many people walking around with this heaviness, and I'm like, imagine if we could just liberate our own shit, if we could just represent liberated living. And that came to me when I became a mum. That was, I feel like, my spiritual awakening, because here I am, I grew up with a disconnected family. My beautiful dad, he was my rock, but he was physically always away with his line of work. My beautiful mum, she was there, but emotionally just not there, to be honest. And so I grew to be hyper independent and relied on myself. And so that family unit we never really had. And so the hyper independence, it led me traveling, it got me into different works, and I loved my life, and I still love my life. But then when I fell pregnant and had my beautiful daughter looking back at me when I was 24, I'm like, holy shit, I can't keep running. I can't keep having these masks on. I can't have this beautiful baby with her green eyes looking at me with her purity. Who am I to taint her with unresolved pain? So it was just me needing to come back to myself. And so that is my ancestral healing, is healing it within myself so it then does not get passed on. And that's what I believe in.
Ancestral trauma, ancestral healing, I feel like is the butt of mental health and things that have the choices that were, made for you, and the choices that you get to make. And it's a challenge. Like Rose was saying, you're just trying to human yourself. None of us are given a book. You're just trying to figure it out. And then you've got kids. I don't have kids yet, and I'm 39 and still trying to figure it out. I can't imagine putting children into navigating being a human being. And so I love the work that you do. I love that you're able to touch on that. I'm excited to go into even more depth with it. I'm going to throw over to Anita now.